Let's see if this is right. You guys should be able to see my screen now. And I'm going to be looking up at it. So I'm not going to be looking at you guys right now because I have two monitors here. So it's going to look like I'm looking up into space. So I apologize about that. But you should be able to see a page that says Stock Screener. Can you guys see that okay? This is, if you go to Fintel, any page on Fintel, and you click on Screens, and you click on the Advanced Screener, you're going to end up on this page, okay? And this is basically kind of the core of it. Now, let's talk about stock screeners. If you're new to stock screening, then basically a stock screener is a filter. It's basically the ability to create a query or to a filter and then apply that filter to every company on in the market, and then kind of exclude companies that don't match your criteria. There's a lot of stock screeners out there that, and most of them are kind of like clickable, right? So you go to the website and you click on a metric, and then you can specify, percentage up or down, percentage, that kind of thing. And those are very powerful, and those are very easy to use. I mean, I think probably most of you are familiar with that. But Fintel is a little bit different. Fintel has a query language, and it can be complicated and it can be a little bit painful sometimes to learn, but it's extremely powerful. And it's one of the things that we're pretty proud of here. So I'm going to walk you through how to use this, because like I said, it's pretty powerful. If you're familiar with databases and SQL, or then you might be familiar with some of these terms already, some of the concepts already. But the idea is this: you start off with a series of expressions. An expression is basically two terms separated by an operator. So for example, my first one is right here. The exchange does not equal OTC. So exchange, of course, is the stock exchange. OTC is OTC stocks. I'm going to get rid of this rest of this stuff, and I'm just going to say exchange does not equal OTC. And it's followed by a semicolon. And what this is going to do is it's going to give me all the stocks where the exchange does not equal OTC. I'm going to click on results here, and it's going to go through. And if you were to kind of follow it to the end, it would give you a list of all the stocks that are not OTC. Okay. Now this includes ETFs. It includes, a number. I mean, basically all the listed securities that we have in our database. So that's kind of the start. Now let's say I want to add to this, and I'm going to build out a query. I want to find all the companies that are also greater than $10. Okay. And I want to, and then I can say, let's get the results here. And it's going to go through, it's going to find all the companies that are not on the OTC that are all greater than $10. Now, if I cancel that and I look at this and I just do a cursory inspection down the right-hand side, I can see that all of these, have a price of greater than $10. All right. So, I'm basically stacking here. I can also say price is less than $20. So what's happening here is that every single one of these expressions must evaluate to true in order for the company to pass through the filter. So this is basically, we're creating a screen, and we're screening the companies. That's why it's called a screener. So if I say get results here and I hit cancel, what you're going to find is that all these companies have a price of greater than $10 and a price of less than $20. All right, makes sense, everybody? If you have questions, jump in here and tell me your questions. There's another way to do this. I could also say price is greater than $10, and now again, this is a little bit complicated for people who are not familiar with programming languages, but and this double and is an operator that allows us to say and. Actually, I did this wrong. Okay, I'm sorry about this. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, we're launching a new screener. It's called the Workbench, and it's got some enhanced capabilities, and I've been working with this the last couple of days, and it allows you to do this. This screener does not allow you to do that. You have to do this. So I apologize, and I might give you guys a little demo of the Workbench here soon. So there's some advanced language capabilities in the new screener in the Workbench that we're going to be rolling out that we don't have in this one. So let me go back to where we had that. I'm going to hit reload here on the page, and it's going to load all of our canned screen. And I put this kind of default rules here because it demonstrates a lot of the capabilities in just a simple, concise way. You can see that a lot of people don't want to have OTC stocks in here, so we have that. We can say market cap is greater than 100 million. So look at what I've done here. I've said 100M. I could say 1 billion. I could say 1 trillion. Okay. So let's say greater than 100 million and market cap is less than 1 billion. Now, I just did something there that you might have seen. I just did autocomplete. So control space, if you want to know what you can screen on, like what are all the terms? Well, first of all, you can right click on this and load up the new terms. And I don't know if you can see that, but if you click over to here, you'll be able to see them all. I'm actually in the process of writing definitions down here. I don't have them all in here. Most of them are accounting definitions, so they're not complicated. Some of them are less, are not, and they're kind of specific to Fintel. And so I'm working on descriptions here, and I'll have all these done in probably in a week or two. But if you want to know what you can put in here, control space opens up autocomplete. So I could say market, MA, control space. Well, there's only one term that matches that. If I said price and I hit control space, I can see that there's price close, there's price high, price low, open, price percent change 1 month, price to sales, and stuff like that. So if I wanted to say, find me companies where the price percent change over 1 month is greater than 25%, okay, I could do that. So let's take a look at what that says. This should show me, I can see that the price percent change for 1 month is 29%. If we were to go look at this, stock, we would probably see a pretty big increase in the pricing on this. Any questions so far? It's pretty quiet in the chat. And I'm not sure if that's a good sign or not. Usually there's a lot of questions. If I want to add something to the results, but I don't want to filter on it, I can just put the term here and it's semicolon. And so let me just show you how that looks. Now I have the volume for these companies on the right side. And, in addition to the other terms that I screened on, okay? So again, the market cap for all these companies should be greater than 100 million and they should all be below 1 billion, okay? Questions so far? I see 10 people here and not a peep in the chat, okay? And then let me show you this other thing that we can do that's kind of really shows the power of this, because to be honest, nothing here, oh man, I didn't mean to do that. Nothing here really kind of shows off the power of, thank you, Jonathan. Nothing here really shows off the power of Fintel, because a lot of this stuff you can do with just a standard kind of point and click screener. The power here is that when you start getting into the fact that you can put stuff on the left and stuff on the right. So if you're an accountant, or if you follow Benjamin Graham, investing from the Intelligent Investor, you might recognize this as this being the net current asset value formula, which is basically he would take the current assets minus the total liabilities of a company, and he would make sure, and if it was greater than the market cap, then he would consider it a buy. So he's basically looking at he's valuing the company by just looking at the assets minus the liabilities. And if that was greater than what the market cap was for the company, and this is back in the 50s and 60s where you had a lot of companies, then he would consider that to be a good buy, because that would mean that the market, as in the market cap, was actually undervaluing the company. And if he wanted to just liquidate the company, he would make more, he would actually make a profit. He could buy the company for the value of the market cap and then actually have more assets. So the idea here is that you can actually put the complex expressions in here. Now, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of this of companies when I run this, because there's not a lot of companies these days that are so undervalued that this is actually true. Well, here's one right here. Here's a couple here. So these, if you were to go look at the, these, then this would be all kind of interesting to the Benjamin Graham. He actually used current assets, and I doubt this would actually show much, but but this is the idea. So the list of commands, look, the terms is right here. If you look at this, where I have this link, and you right click on it, okay, you'll get to the list of terms, okay? There are no really commands on this page. It's just, you just put your expressions in here. You put a term on the left and an expression which is not equals or greater than or less than or greater than equal to, and then you put a constant over here, or you put another term in. You could conceivably say, I'm not sure why you would say this, but you know, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but you could put price percent change over 1 month is greater than price. That would say, that would mean the price, you know, if the price percent change is 25%, then the price would have to be less than 25, and that would match. Doesn't make any sense, but you get the idea. So this is it in a nutshell, right? You can take this and you can really stack all these terms to get something interesting. Now let's just take a look at some of the more interesting terms that we have. Again, like I said, a lot of these are accounting numbers, so I'm not going to go into a lot of those. Like you can look at cash and the liabilities and stuff like this. And again, I'm working on this right now, kind of revamping this to put in definitions. But some of the things that are really interesting that a lot of people like, if you're interested in short interest and stuff like that, and ownership. We have a lot of ownership data. We have a lot of short interest data. So the short borrow fee rate, I think is short. Let's see, is it borrow? Short borrow rate. Okay, so the short borrow rate is the lending rate that people have to pay whenever they want to short a stock. If it's over 50%, I'm interested in that. Let's get rid of this for a second and get rid of this. So let's take a look at companies that have a high short borrow rate. This is going to show me companies that are really perhaps on the verge of having a short squeeze. I'm going to reload this because this, okay. How is an owner defined? Well, an owner is basically a institutional owner, right? So it's anybody who has disclosed a ownership in a regulatory filing. So, you know, regulatory filings include 13Ds and 13Gs and 13Fs and import filings. So let's take a look at this again. So if you could take a look at these things here, we've got owners count is a great one. So let's take a look at owners count change. This is the number of owners. This is the percent change of owners in the last 90 days. So if I plug this in here, let's get rid of the revenue growth and let's get rid of the volume. Let's say that we want to find companies where there's a lot of accumulation, okay? And we're going to say owners count is less than 100. So let's find companies where there's a lot of accumulation, but there's a lot of recent accumulation, but there's not a lot of owners yet. We'll make this 50, okay? If you want to find companies before they become widely held by institutions, you could do this. And this is going to show you, I'm going to hit cancel. You know, there's only 27 owners in this company right here, Future FinTech Group, but there's been 145% change in the number of owners. So that would have been that there was probably, you know, 10 or 12 last quarter, and now there's 27. The price is still $3. So, you know, this is a really good way to find companies that, you know, are early in the ownership acquisition accumulation kind of cycle. You can also look at owner's allocation percent change. So when a fund discloses their positions, their total positions, we can actually calculate the total percent allocation, the percentage of their total portfolio. And so we look at that on a quarter to quarter basis. So let's just say the owner's allocation percent change is greater than 10%. This will tell you that, like, not just are people buying new ones, but the existing owners actually have increased their percentage of ownership. So is there any way to list new owners? So look, the stock screener is going to give you a list of companies. It's not going to give you a list of owners. if you have a company that you like, for example, Eli's Game Technology Corp., and you click on open link in new tab, and you go to the ownership page here, I'm going to go to institutional owners. Okay. The question is, any way to list new owners? All of the new owners are in green here. Okay. So if I click on sort this by shares changed, so all of these green guys are new owners. All right. But you're not going to get the screener to do that. That's the screener is going to show you a list of companies. It's not going to show you a list of owners. Now let's go back and look at the terms here. We have an ownership score, which basically shows you it's an allocation score, which basically shows you it ranks companies based on their ownership allocation. So if I want to say, show me all the companies that have a score greater than 90, it's going to go through and it's going to show you this is a 96 and 97. Okay. You'll find out that the ownership allocation score is very similar and correlated to the ownership score. I can actually show you this. We have a pre-built screen that does this. Highest accumulation by funds. If I open this in a new link, we've actually kind of pre-built you a screener or a list of companies that rank ownership accumulation across the entire market. Okay, so these are the companies that are experiencing the greatest levels of accumulation. Small cap energy ETFs. You can also see kind of, if you look at the ETFs, you can actually see where like the funds are flowing. Factor rotation ETF. This cannabis ETF has been up here for a while. There was another cannabis ETF that was up here as well. So let's go back to the stock screener. If you like insider trading, you can take a look at companies that have insiders sell buy count, insiders buy sell count. Where'd it go? Insider net buyer count. Okay, so this is an interesting one. I want to find all the companies where there's a whole bunch of insiders buying. So the way we calculate this is we look in the last 90 days. It's a 90 days look back period, and we say how many insiders sold in the last 90 days. And then we say how many insiders bought in the last 90 days. Just even a share. How many bought on the open market with their own money, or if it's a hedge fund, other people's money, I suppose. And how many sold. And then we subtract the sellers from the buyers to come up with the insider net buyer count. So let's say we want to find companies that have a lot of insider buying, a lot of different insiders that are buying. Then we just say, let's say insider net buyer count is greater than 5. Now this will tell you all the companies where there were over 5 insiders, a net positive 5 insiders buying in the last 90 days. Okay. You can also do things like insider ownership percent float. We can look at the volume. The net buyer count is probably the best figure for this. We can look at sell buy ratios and things like that. But sometimes there's always the last 90 days. Yes. Almost all of these terms, all of these terms are basically kind of dated as of today, and in some cases they have different kind of look back periods. All of the insider, I'm going to say this kind of broadly, all of the insider data, this kind of net buyer volume and net seller count and stuff like this, they all have a 90-day look back. And the reason we chose 90 days, and I'll actually write this into the descriptions here, is because there's a lot of companies that don't have any insider buying in a month or in a week. Okay. And if you do it, we tried it looking back at a week, we tried looking back for a month, and you end up with a lot of companies that just have goose eggs. And you're trying to look at things like sell buy ratio or buy sell ratio. This is basically the ratio of buyers to sellers. If you want to say, this will show you kind of, so this is basically 2 buyers for every 1 seller, 4 buyers for every 1 seller. If we were just looking at this for a 1-week look back, then you wouldn't be able to have any information because there would be 0 buyers or 0 sellers. Okay. So there's no need to add a date to this. What else do we have in here that's interesting? You can look at volume over float. The insider score basically is another type of score that we have that basically ranks companies on, let's say it's greater than 90%, greater than 90. It's like the short squeeze score, where we basically we have a quant model that looks at these and it ranks them based on a variety of insider trading metrics. So that basically summarizes a lot of things in here. So if you wanted to say insider score is greater than 90, ownership score is greater than 90, you can really kind of find some interesting companies in here. So it's a good company. That's an interesting company to look at. I don't know much about it. I don't know anything about it, but I can tell you that the insiders have been buying and the ownership, the institutional funds have been buying. What else do we have in here? So there's things like inventory and finished goods and gross margins and things like that. All this stuff comes straight from the 10Ks, and we're actually in the process of licensing accounting data from a well-known company, a well-known provider of this data, and we're actually going to have data on every company in the world, every publicly traded company in the world. And so you're going to be able to do this to not just the United States, but we're going to add every major trading market. So we'll have Canada, the UK, Europe, Hong Kong, Japan, India, and so forth. And so that's something that we're adding. We're in the process of adding that right now. That will happen in the Fintel Workbench, which is the version 3 of the stock screener. This stock screener that we're looking at right here is version 2. Would I mind posting that last query? I missed the last term. Here it is right here. Ownership score is greater than 90. So let's keep looking in here. There's advertising expense. Again, a lot of this stuff is all accounting terms. So we're going to have, and this is basically the accounts payable as of the last balance sheet. This is as of the last balance sheet. You can look at this assets growth, which would be the assets growth from this balance sheet to the prior one. So it would be annual. And then kind of what else is interesting here besides, we've got days to cover. This is a short interest metric. Days to cover is reported by the exchanges on a 2-week schedule. We actually recalculate days to cover on a daily basis. So our days to cover is not going to be the same as if I say days to cover, and then I say days to cover exchange reported, you'll see that they're going to be pretty different, because the days to cover exchange reported, they take the short interest and they divide it by the average volume over the last 3 months, I think is what they do. And we actually look at the last 5 days and you get rid of this ownership score and insider score. So we feel like our number is a little bit more accurate. You can see that there's a pretty big difference in some cases here between our daily calculation of days to cover and the exchange reported days to cover, which is calculated every 2 weeks and is usually a week delayed. Is there any specific interest, like, I'm trying to get some of these numbers here. I'm trying to show you some of this stuff. Are there other specific areas that I'm missing that you guys are interested in? If you're interested in valuation metrics, we have like price to sales. Like I can come in here and I can say PE ratio is greater than 0, PE ratio is less than 15. I can say this will give you kind of a valuation metric. I can say price to sales, price to book, price to sales is less than 10. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do. And I think that at this point, I've probably kind of mined all of the kind of the functionality here. It's really just a question of putting your equations in and hitting go, get results, and then kind of looking back here at what's interesting to you. How do you comment out of line? So yeah, comments you can do. I don't know if you can do that with this screener. I can tell you that with the Workbench, yeah, no, you can't comment out of line right now. With the Workbench, which we're launching, you will be able to have comments. So I'm sorry about that. That's one of the things that was a big problem for a lot of people. But the comments are important, and you just can't do that with this right now. I'm sorry. That's one of the reasons that we wanted to kind of renovate this thing. I think you'll be pretty excited about the Workbench. One of the things that we're doing with the Workbench is, like I said, we're gonna provide, ultimately we're gonna provide coverage for every major stock exchange in the world, and that'll include Europe, obviously North America, Canada, the US, Asia. I think we're going to have coverage of, we're certainly going to have coverage of Australia, Hong Kong, Japan, probably, and India, probably South Korea, Taiwan, and so forth. And then I'm not sure if we'll have a lot of the Middle East coverage, but we might. And in terms of terms, we're going to add a whole bunch of technical analysis functions as well. So you'll be able to say things like the EMA for the last 20 days is greater than the EMA the last 50 days. So if you guys are familiar with technical analysis, the exponential moving average of 20 is the short-term average, and then 50 is the long-term average. And if the short-term average is greater than the 50, the long-term average, then that would imply, or that would suggest that you're in an upward trend. And so you could include something like this, 20 days. And this, if you wanted to roll your own EMA, it's simple. You just change the number of days, right? You could also say something like this: price is greater than the 20-day, the EMA 20 days. So that's pretty cool. We're also going to be adding all of these. If you look at the TA lib in Java, there's about 75 to 100 different indicators like Bollinger Bands and things like that that we're going to be able to add. And so you would be able to say something like price. I don't know how it looks exactly in the syntax, but price is greater than. I don't know how it would work, but basically the idea is you would be able to make sure that a price is above a Bollinger Band or inside a Bollinger Band, that kind of thing. And there's a bunch of other indicators as well that use volume and things like that. So I don't know if you guys have any more questions. I've pretty much gone through all of the things I can think about that are interesting. I've talked to you guys about the equations and how you build these equations. I've showed you that you can hit Control Space to get autocomplete here. I've showed you that you can get to the list of terms by clicking on this link here, and it's going to show you this. I've told you that not all of these have got definitions, but I'm working on them, and most of them are accounting data. But there's a lot of stuff down here like the short squeeze score and the volume, shortages ratio, short ball rate, that kind of stuff. This is all stuff that I'm working on documenting. We did owner's count, which is ownership data. We looked at insider trading data here. And we talked a little bit about the Workbench, which is going to include basically a bunch of functions, going to include technical analysis and then financial data on every major market. So look, do you guys have any more questions about this? I'll look at the camera. Showing the EMA line. Yeah, okay. So the EMA line, oh, there's the Workbench right there. The EMA line is this, and I'll just go ahead and explain it once again. One of the things that you look at in technical analysis is if you want to see if a company is in an upward trend, you look at the EMA for 20 days or the SMA, the simple moving average for 20 days, and you compare it to the simple moving average of 50 days or something like that. And if the short-term moving average is above the long-term moving average, then you can assume, that is basically a mathematical way of determining if something is in an upward trend. And so this would be the line kind of that you would use to see that. And my point here is that look, you can't do this with most stock screeners. And that's one of the things that we're really excited about with Fintel, is that you can actually stack these equations and put variables on the left and the right side. And it becomes very powerful. And then being able to combine that with accounting metrics and stuff like this. Yeah, it doesn't work on this because this is not the Workbench. This is the old stock screener. This isn't going to work at all right now. I'm just talking about what's going to happen next. So this line and this line do not work now, but when we launch this Workbench, and hopefully what will happen is I'll have this kind of a beta version of it available within a week or two. And if you guys, stay tuned, then, I'll start making announcements and I'll start putting stuff on YouTube and maybe comment to people that this is available in beta, and you'll see a link on the website. When it's available, I'll put it up here. You'll see this advanced screener here. You'll see the Workbench version 3.0. And you guys will be able to jump in. Obviously, if you're a subscriber, you'll be able to start playing around with it. And in terms of kind of this webinar, I will be putting this webinar up on YouTube by the end of the day. So if you guys haven't looked at the YouTube webinars, you should just go to YouTube and do a search for Fintel and webinar, and you'll see I've been doing these webinars for about 6 months now or so, and I just put them all up there, and you might learn something new. A lot of times I go over the same stuff, so it might not be that interesting, but if you have some time, go back and look at some of the old webinars. There's a lot of good questions in there, and you might learn something from some of the old ones as well. So any questions about this? Is this helpful? Is this exciting to you? Do you think you guys will be able to make use of it? All right, great. All right, well, that sounds great. Thank you guys for taking the time. I always enjoy this. I always learn a little bit. You guys take care. And if you have any questions, there's a green question mark down at the bottom of every page on Fintel. And if you click on that link, you can get help. And we have a customer service team here that's going to help you out and ask your questions, and we'll do the best we can to make sure that they get answered. All right. So take care. Thanks again for everything.